What is going on, everyone? It's me, Gaming 2, and today we are back to another tier list. And to expand my geography on this channel, I'm going to be doing a tier list on the 50 states. This is just my opinion on what I think of all the states. It's going from S to F, and yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Just a note, please don't get offended by this list. I'm not going to say anything offensive about these states unless it's something that I've read on with research or watching some videos or from stuff that I've heard, as I've only been to 10 states in my entire life. So I don't know that much. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. We're starting with Indiana. That's hard. I think I'm gonna give Indiana a B or a C. While it has the Indy 500 and Indianapolis, is there anything really notable about Indiana besides that? Lincoln's boyhood home is here, I guess. Michael Jackson is from here. But I'm sorry, I gotta give it a C. It's not somewhere I'd be screaming and crying if you offered me to go there, but it's not somewhere where I'd freaking jump up in excitement if I went there. I'd be like, okay, fine. No offense to people from Indiana. I heard the people are extremely friendly and kind here, but I mean, just doesn't seem all that interesting to me. Hawaii. I'm giving it an A. There's one reason I'm not giving it an S. It is expensive. If it was just a little bit cheaper, I would give it an S. Hawaii is gorgeous. That's undeniable. From the volcanoes to the ocean to even the city of Honolulu. Just pretty much everything about the state of Hawaii is gorgeous. I don't think anybody can deny that. But the problem with Hawaii is just the fact that it's a freaking fortune. But it is a fortune to live in paradise, as they say. California. I'm gonna give it the same ranking as Indiana. California is admittedly a beautiful state in certain areas. Whether you're talking about the beaches near Los Angeles or Yosemite National Park or the Redwood Forests, California is beautiful. But it does have some problems. Some of the problems being the fact that, to put it lightly, a lot of the cities there have kind of a homeless problem from what I've heard. And the government is, please don't take offense to this, but from what I've heard, the government there is kind of corrupt a little bit. There'll be a few more states that I've heard about the corrupt government, but California especially I've heard, and California is a pretty good state. It's got good aspects, but it does have its fair share of problems. You know what? I'll move it up to B, because there's a lot of good things about California, such as the beauty and opportunity there is great, but honestly, you know what? It's not my favorite state. Alaska, I'm going to put it the same as Hawaii. I'm going to put it under A. The difference, though, and the one problem I have with Alaska is just brutally cold. Other than that, just like Hawaii, Alaska is freaking gorgeous. From the mountains to the lakes to just the freaking drives you take to the wildlife, seeing pretty much anything you could see in North America, to the pine forests, it's just gorgeous, to say the least. Alabama. Now this is the first state I didn't have a heck of a lot to say about Indiana, but I'm gonna put it the same place as Indiana. It's got the space camp there from what I understand, but outside of that, I know some of the cities like Birmingham and Montgomery, but what else is in Alabama? Like, I don't know. Tell me in the comments below if you're from Alabama, but I heard it's got a little bit of a high crime rate, but I'm not going to put that too much on this list. But from what I understand, there's not a heck of a lot there, in my opinion, that I'd be interested in. Arizona. I'm going to put it the same as California. Um, One of my big problems is actually the exact opposite of Alaska. It's brutally hot there, and honestly, I would probably have a slightly bigger problem with that than the coldness of Alaska. I'm sure the coldness of Alaska is a lot more brutal than the hotness of Arizona, but I just hate the heat like you wouldn't effing believe. And that's why I'm going to put it at B mainly, is because I hate the heat more than the cold personally. I'm young and I just hate sweat going down my freaking body. But it's another really nice state. I love all the cactuses, especially, and the Grand Canyon is freaking gorgeous. And from what I understand, Phoenix is a pretty cool city, but the brutal heat is what's keeping me from calling this a really perfect state. Colorado. I'm going to put this as the first S tier state. I love Colorado. Just, it's beautiful. The mountains, the weather is relatively nice there. From what I understand, Denver is an awesome city with my second favorite NFL team in the entire league, the Broncos. Colorado is just one of my favorite states. If not for anything, just the beauty. It's also just, there seems to be a lot to do there, especially in Denver. I love Colorado. It's just a state I'd love to visit and maybe even move to. Delaware. I've been to Delaware before. This is actually the first state on the list that I've been to. Delaware. Delaware's alright. It's not inherently bad. It's got a nice coastal city, the one I've been to, Lewes. It's really nice. I like the boat ride you can take from Cape May to there, because I went there just this year when I went to Cape May. I took the ferry there, and it was nice. But sort of like Alabama and Indiana, there's not a heck of a lot to do there. Maybe slightly more than the other two, so maybe I'll put it in front of Indiana and Alabama, but see, there might be a little more in Indiana, but I don't know. I'll put it in the middle, Indiana and Alabama, and I'll actually put Arizona above California, but Delaware, they had a little more to do. I'd probably put it in B, but for what it stands, it's alright. Connecticut? Connecticut's another state that I've been to. Actually, this is the most recent state I've been to. Have I been to New York since I went to Connecticut? Technically, yes, because I had to drive through there to get back to New Jersey. But I think it's the most recent state I visited. Connecticut's cool. You know, I'll put it in B. From what I've heard, Hartford is a real shithole. Um, It's got very high crime, some of the highest crime in New England, but honestly, if anything, this is where my dogs are from. And that honestly has a lot to do why I have a soft spot for Connecticut. Um, I love my dogs so much. They mean so much to me. And just some of the beaches, specifically Mystic, it's pretty beautiful. Now, it's expensive and it does have some high crime for New England, but I have a soft spot for Connecticut, so that's why I'll give it a B. Florida. Probably the furthest state I've ever been to. I have been to Florida before. I've been to Orlando when I went to Disney World. Judging by Disney World, this would be S, but I'm going to put it in C because from what I've heard, a lot of weird stuff happens in Florida. I don't want to really get into it, but from what I've heard, a lot of weird stuff happens. But I might actually put it up to B because it does have a lot of fun theme parks like Disney and Universal, and I have some family that lives in Florida, so yeah. I'll put it under B instead of C. Georgia. Georgia's cool. I'll give it a B. Or an A. You know what? I'll give it a B. Atlanta's a pretty cool city, but I like Savannah even more. That's like what you'd call a typical southern town. If there's any town in the South I'd like to visit, it would either be Savannah, Georgia, or Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. They just give me the southern charm from what I've read about it, and it's just somewhere I'd really like to go. But the reason why I'm not giving it an absolute S or A is because it does get hot there, and there's parts of Atlanta that are kind of dangerous, but Georgia's a really nice state. So, you know what? I'll put it in the front of B. I really like Georgia. Maryland. That's hard. Really, I've only driven through Maryland. The only time I ever really stopped there is to go to an alpaca farm. Um, it's alright. It's got nice beaches, so you know what? I'll put it at the bay about the same as Delaware. This one might be one of the most controversial places on my list, but Maryland, in my opinion, is a cool state, but it does have Baltimore. Baltimore has some infamously dangerous parts, and I don't know if there is a heck of a lot to do there, especially in the western part of the state, but I don't know. I've only really driven through Maryland before. Idaho. I'm not going to make that joke. Idaho is a wonderful state. I'm actually going to put this as my second S tier state. I have very similar stuff to say about Idaho as similar to Colorado. Idaho is a beautiful state with beautiful forests and rivers and just mountains. It's beautiful. It's got really nice cities like Boise. And you know what's weird? I like the shape of this state. That may be weird, but I really like the shape of this state. Also, this state has a very low crime rate, and it's just a really good place. Illinois. Uh, This one's a tough one. I'd say I'm going to put Illinois in C. It has Chicago, which is a cool city that has some things I want to do in it. But Chicago also has some things that are awful. From what I've heard, the government of that city is one of the worst in the entire country. It's very corrupt, which I was talking about with California. I can say the same thing with Illinois from what I've heard. A lot of these is going to be from what I've heard. I'll tell you if I've been to the States before, but, yeah. Besides that, Illinois is almost the same as Indiana. What is there to do really outside of Chicago? Springfield is cool. Um, Springfield has some nice stuff with Abraham Lincoln, but I don't really know too much besides that. Arkansas. Arkansas, you have beautiful mountains, but that's not enough to get you out of the C tier. Arkansas is pretty similar to Alabama. I've heard a lot of things that this is a very crime-ridden state. I don't know, because I've never been there personally, but from what I've heard, it's a very crime-ridden state, and outside of the Fayetteville area, there's not a lot of really good cities. And it's got some nice mountains, and it's probably one of the more beautiful states in the South, honestly. It's not an absolutely perfect state, and I don't have too much more to say about Arkansas. It's C for me. Iowa. Iowa, you know what? This may be the biggest shock on the entire list, but I'm giving Iowa a B. Here's the thing. Is Iowa a gorgeous state? Not really. But honestly, it's a little more pretty than most people give it credit. The route along I-80 going west, it's kind of nice. It's got a lot of nice rolling hills and you see some farms. It's not like even some of the eastern states like Maine or Michigan, but it's nice. It's certainly not to the degree of like Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana area, but it's nice. And my favorite college sports team is there, the Iowa Hawkeyes. And Des Moines seems like a pretty nice city. Why this is not an S tier, in my opinion, it's kind of what people have said before. There is not a heck of a lot to do there. But I'm going to give Iowa a little more credit than states like Indiana and Illinois because it's got a little more charm to it, I guess you can say, in my opinion. It's a little more for me. Kansas. I had to put something low, and Kansas has got to be one of them. What's stopping me from putting this in F is barbecue. I love myself some barbecue. If this didn't have barbecue, this might have been the first F state. Why is this my least favorite state? This state is literally as flat as a pancake. I read about that the other day. It's literally as flat as a pancake. And I don't know what else to say. It's flat, it's boring, there's not a lot of really cool cities. Kansas is one of the worst states in the country, in my opinion. There's just nothing. It's a big, empty, flat land of nothingness. Kentucky. Kentucky's kind of cool. I like the Kentucky Derby maybe a little more than the Indy 500 because I don't know. I have a soft spot for animals, and animal racing makes it a little bit cooler. I don't know. I kind of feel the same about Kentucky and Indiana. Like, if I had to go to Kentucky, I wouldn't argue it, but it wouldn't be my first choice. Um, Another thing I like about Indiana is that that's where Garfield's from. That's kind of cool. But Kentucky, I basically feel about the same as Indiana. Louisiana, again, well, nah, here's the thing. While New Orleans is a pretty cool city, it's not really a city I'd want to go to. It doesn't really fit my lifestyle. And besides that, I don't know if there's a heck of a lot to do. And I heard it's a pretty bad city. It's a pretty bad state for crime. Um, I don't have much more to say about Louisiana other than it's alright. Maine. Maine is my favorite state, probably east of the Mississippi River. I don't know, that's a really close call with another state, but I love Maine. Maine is just, it's got it all. Beautiful landscapes. I've been to this state before, so I can say for sure it's got nice people. Honestly, some of the nicest people I've ever met are from Maine. Um, the city of Portland is awesome. It had a really cool comic book shop when I went there. The food is awesome there. The lobster rolls are delicious. The coast is beautiful. Maine is just one of the best states in this country. I love Maine. Massachusetts. I'll give it an A. I really like Massachusetts. What's keeping it from S is kind of the same thing as Hawaii. It's expensive and it's not extremely beautiful, but it's got nice views in the western part especially. Um, Boston's a really nice city, lot to do. It's got some good food and some loyal sports fans. Overall, Massachusetts is pretty cool. Michigan. I'm gonna have to give it A. This was what I was talking about if I was arguing between Maine or Michigan. I am gonna have to give it to Maine for one reason. This state has some pretty bad cities, like Flint and Detroit. That kind of brings the state down, but if it wasn't for that, I'd consider it on par with Maine. Beautiful, beautiful state with beautiful coastline on the Great Lakes, nice piney forest up in the northern peninsula. It's got, from what I understand, nice people. Michigan is an awesome state, but Flint and Detroit really, I can't put it on S because of them. Minnesota. Minnesota, in my opinion, is another really good state. It's known for having nice people. They have a delicious dish there that I made by myself called tater tot hot dish. That's freaking beautiful. But I can't say it's one of my favorite states because a lot of the state is just flat. And also, it's got some nice coastline on the Great Lakes, but it is kind of flat in a lot of areas. And I don't know. It's not one of my favorite states. Alright, I'm gonna leave it here for now. I'm taking a break. I'll be right back. Alright, little more than halfway through the list. Let's move forward. Mississippi. This is a place that I've heard a lot of problems about, and I tend to believe it. Uh, but not totally. So, yeah, this might be a big shock. I'm putting Mississippi at C just because I don't know a heck of a lot about a lot of these states, but from the impression that I get, at least it has a coastline, and it's kind of the birthplace of American music, so no, I don't know. I'm not. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of C because it does have a lot of problems, but still, it is what it is. Montana, another wonderful state. I love Montana. Its eastern half is a little bit boring, but its western half more than makes up for it. Glacier National Park is one of the most beautiful places in the country. It's got beautiful lakes and mountains, and it's very similar to Idaho. I love it. Nebraska. I'm going to put it at C. Do you know why I put a Nebraska over Kansas? Because there is some nice areas at the very western end of the state. If it wasn't for that, Nebraska would be about the same as Kansas. It would be one of my least favorite states. But it has beauty at the very western part of the state. I think we're halfway through the list now. I think we got 25 to go now. So, Nevada's next. A lot of these are C tier. Nevada's another C tier. The idea of Las Vegas is cool. It is. The problem I have with Las Vegas is that it's a strange place, filled with a lot of strange stuff. But it's got a lot of cool stuff too. Like it's got a horror shop there where I got a Jason mask from online. That's cool. And also one of my favorite YouTubers is from there. I think they might have started on TikTok, but this is actually where Hammy and Olivia are from, the Corgis. Um, they are part of the reason why I love Corgis so much. I've actually had Willow longer than when I started watching them, but they just enhanced my love for Corgis. Probably almost as much as getting Willow, but not quite that much. But I love Hammy and Olivia. They're one of my favorite YouTubers slash TikTokers. I don't know. I don't use TikTok. But anyways, besides Las Vegas, Nevada, it's like the most boring state in the West. But Las Vegas, it's not terrible. It's not like really bad like a lot of people say, but it's not like my dream vacation like a lot of people say either. New Hampshire. New Hampshire is another beautiful state. I really like you know what? I'll put it in S. I really like New Hampshire. New Hampshire is awesome. It's almost like Maine. I don't quite like it as much as I like Maine, but New Hampshire is another beautiful state with it's got a great living score. It's like extremely safe and it's beautiful. Mount Washington is one of the highest peaks east of the Mississippi River. It's very similar to Maine, but the reason why I almost put it in A is because its coastline is not huge, but it's a nice state. Oh boy, we're here. We are at my home state of New Jersey. Okay, people shit on this state a lot, but I'm here to tell you, you shouldn't. Where is it gonna go? Where is it gonna go? Where is it gonna go? Here. Yep. I probably just shocked the world when I put New Jersey in the B tier. Here's the thing. There is some common misconceptions about this state, like everyone is an asshole here. That's not really true. Are there assholes here? Yes. But there's assholes in every state. Um, you also might have heard that it's really expensive here. And that's true. It's a freaking fortune here. But you know what else is here? There is a lot to do here. You got the beaches. You got a lot of nice, not really big cities, but there's a lot of places with like nice malls. And honestly, the beaches are really beautiful. But I just simply can't put it in S or A because, for one, I know this state the most out of any state on this list. So I can truthfully say my opinion about New Jersey. For one, the people are not especially nice here, but they're direct. They're being honest. People are honest here. And another thing is that it is like the most expensive state in the union, if I'm not mistaken. But my home state of New Jersey, it's a pretty nice state with a fair bit to do. But it's not my favorite. New Mexico. I gotta see. It's nice. It's got some nice mountains up top, but it's also very dangerous from what I hear. Um, uh, I don't have a heck of a lot to say about New Mexico, honestly. It's kind of like almost Nevada Junior, except I might honestly put Nevada over it because Las Vegas has some cool stuff to do. Well, I don't know if there's a heck of a lot of cool stuff. I might put it over Mississippi, but that's going to be about it. It's got some nice mountains, but it does have a lot of problems. New York, one of my bordering states, a bordering state that's only about like 10 minutes from where I live. I'd put it about the same as New Jersey. It's a pretty nice state. There is even more to do in New York than there is in New Jersey. New York is truthfully, the people are kind of rude here, and it is also expensive. It's New York and New Jersey, I think, are very similar. Um, but I'd say it goes even more for New York, so that's why, honestly, I'm gonna put my home state of New Jersey just one place above New York. Um, just because it's a little more expensive and a little more rude than New York, from what I've heard. Or from what I've seen. I've been to New York plenty of times. Not really to the city, but to the state itself. I've been there like a million times. It's my most visited state, actually, outside of New Jersey. Anywho, there is a ton to do here, though. Honestly, more than New Jersey. It's got a lot of nice cities, and it has a little bit of coastline on the Great Lakes. It's a pretty cool state. North Carolina. North Carolina is an awesome state. It's got beautiful coastline. Absolutely gorgeous coastline. And the highest peak east of the Mississippi River. Period. Mount Mitchell. It's a very high mountain peak. And that area of the Appalachian Mountains is just, it's gorgeous. North Carolina has so much beauty to it. It's in the A tier. Or you know what? I'm gonna give it an S. North Carolina, you get an S for me. You just this is probably my favorite state in the entirety of the South. I love North Carolina. However, what do I think of North Dakota? Not really that much. It's kind of like a lot of the Midwest states and a lot of the prairie states. It's kind of boring. It's got some nice views, and I feel very similar to North Dakota as I do Nebraska. It's got some nice views in the western part, but North Dakota, not a heck of a lot to do there. Ohio. Okay, here's Ohio. Ohio's getting a B. I'd put it very similar to New Jersey and New York. Ohio has some cool stuff. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cuyahoga Park, just I'm a particular fan of Cleveland. It's got some really bad parts to it, but that area by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is pretty freaking cool. The reason why I'm not gonna put it in A or S is because it is kind of the start of the Midwest where the views sort of get kind of boring, and outside of Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus, there's not a heck of a lot to do. I will give it a little more for Cleveland, specifically the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame area, but honestly, it is kind of the start of the Midwest where views start to get a lot less appealing and there's a lot less stuff to do, but Ohio, it's pretty cool. Oklahoma. Do you know what? There's not a lot to like about Oklahoma. I'd say I feel very similar to Oklahoma as I do Kansas, and I'm gonna keep it. You know what? There's not a heck of a lot I like about Oklahoma. Their flag is cool, and I heard they have good people, but this, along with Kansas, has just the least interesting to me of any state. There's not a lot of beautiful views. I mean, it's probably got a few, but it's not a lot that's a heck of a lot worthwhile. It's just another flat, boring state to me. Oregon. Oregon is cool. It's a really cool state. I put it at A. The reason why it's not S is because of Portland. Portland is not a bad city, but it's becoming a lot worse than it used to be from what I've heard. It's got a little bit of a homeless problem, which is not inherently bad, but some of them kind of, I don't know, beg for change and stuff like that, so I don't know. Oregon, for the most part, is beautiful. It's got a lot similar to the western states, and it has Pacific coastline, but I don't know. I'm going to take another break. I'll be back. Okay, that break took a little longer than I expected. And by that, I mean months. Guys, I was very nervous to record this video because I know a lot of people are very defensive over their home state and stuff like that, and I get it. I really get it. But please don't take offense to this, because one, I haven't been to like 70% of these states. That's the first thing. Like, I haven't been to 70% of these states. Like, I've been pretty much the only states I've been to are on the East Coast. with the exception of the next state, actually. It's the only one that's not on the East Coast that I've ever been to. So take that as it is, but I'm really not trying to offend anybody, but I've done a lot of research on these states over the years, like mainly the past 2 years, and I'm a very passionate fan of geography, so I wanted to do a geography related video on here. And after this video, I plan to introduce more geography onto my geography channel that I'm making, but guys, please don't take offense to this. I'm just giving my opinion. With that said, let's get on to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania may be a little bit of a shock, but I'm giving it an A. Above both New Jersey and New York. And I can't give it an S because some of the major cities have a pretty high crime rate, especially Chester, Reading, and Philadelphia, from what I've heard. But there's no doubt, it's a beautiful state. From the Delaware Water Gap to the Allegheny Forest to just Pittsburgh, even. It's a beautiful city. But there's also a lot to do there, like a bunch of theme parks like Dorney and Hershey. The Hershey Chocolate Factory is there, which I still gotta go to. And it's close. It's less than 2 hours from where I live. So I gotta go to Hershey one day. I really do. Even if I just go to the chocolate factory, I just love to go to Hershey one day. But there's a lot to do. It's got beautiful wildlife. That's not really wildlife, but like natural landscapes. Pretty similar to West Virginia. You'll see where I put that a little later. My only other complaint is this may be weird, and this might be in other states too on the East Coast, but I mainly found this from my research into Pennsylvania. It's the architecture. The houses seem to be very, 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 very crammed, especially in the eastern part of the state. Like, a lot of the houses seem to be very crammed together in, like, I'm not talking about the very rural parts, I'm talking about like the cities. Like, I've mainly realized it from like Philadelphia and Allentown, kind of. It's not bad necessarily, it's just, I don't know, I kind of like my privacy, and I feel like, well, it's a little bit, I feel a little bit claustrophobic, honestly. But that's not, Pennsylvania has way more positives than negatives, in my opinion. It's a pretty underrated state, in my opinion. Honestly, it's probably my favorite state on the East Coast. But it's not on the East Coast, actually. Okay, we should be good. As I was doing Rhode Island, my dogs decided that they were going to have a singing competition. But now that they're gone to bed, I can now continue, and hopefully this will be the last part I have to record. But let's do Rhode Island, which I don't know much about. If I'm being honest, the only thing I really know about this state is that Providence is the capital and the biggest city, and they have coffee milk, and they're the ocean state. Besides that, I really don't know much about Rhode Island. I guess you could say the Family Guy characters are from there. That's a plus, I guess. I really don't have much to say about that. South Carolina. What can I say? I love South Carolina. South Carolina is beautiful. You got just the most southern city probably in the entire country, maybe tied with Savannah, Georgia, in Charleston, South Carolina, that just, it gives you the total feeling of the Deep South. I would love to visit there one day. Myrtle Beach, it has some crime, but you can't deny that it's still a beautiful area with a beautiful beach. Um, South Carolina is called the Palmetto State for a reason. And this is the reason. Um, it's beautiful. It's honestly, I probably well, I don't know. I kind of tie both of the Carolinas together because both of them do have beautiful beaches. I would actually probably give the slight edge to North Carolina because they have really high mountains. Actually, fun fact, they have the highest peak east of the Mississippi River with Mount Mitchell, over 6,000 feet, and it's beautiful. South Dakota, I'm actually going to give it a B because the Black Hills are in South Dakota and it's gorgeous. Now, probably 70% of the state is just like flat, like the rest of that region. But you know what? That's okay because the other like 30% of the state makes up for it. This is where freaking Mount Rushmore is, and Mount Rushmore is one of America's greatest landmarks. It's beautiful. And the Black Hills in general are, you start to get a feeling of being out west. And it's awesome. You start to see like animals like bison out here, and it's a great state. The reason why I can't put it on A or S is because 70% of the state is pretty flat, but the other 30% is awesome. Missouri, I don't know why we didn't do this one earlier. Missouri is okay, I guess. Kansas City is a pretty cool city. They got a lot of winning sports teams, such as, obviously the Chiefs, even though they're not going this year. The Bengals and the, Rams are going to the Super Bowl this year, but I bet you next year the Chiefs will come back. I think the Chiefs are honestly going to be the new Patriots, but, yeah, the Chiefs are great. It's just the city of Kansas City is awesome. I want to try their barbecue. Oh, that's got to be delicious. But it's kind of like the rest of the Midwest, in my opinion. Like, a lot of the Midwestern states are just, eh. I don't hate them, but really, is there a lot to do in them? St. Louis has, besides a terrible crime rate, I don't know much to say about St. Louis besides that. I'm sorry, I really am, but, I heard that St. Louis has, like, one of, if not the highest crime rate in the country. But Missouri in general is kind of like most of the Midwest, in my opinion, in that it's, not bad, but not great, honestly. Tennessee. Tennessee's pretty cool. I can't say it's one of my favorite states, but sort of like, what the heck am I thinking of? Sort of like South Carolina, you start to get that southern feel, but more of the western southern feel. Like, you start to see a lot of barbecue once you get to Tennessee, and Memphis-style ribs. Oh, I want to try them. I don't know if I necessarily want to go into the city of Memphis because, just like St. Louis, I heard it has a terrible crime rate. But they also have the Great Smoky Mountains along with North Carolina, and come on. They're just out of this freaking world beautiful. I don't have much more to say about Tennessee except it's a pretty good state in my opinion. Texas, one of the most popular states in the country, and I don't think anybody can deny that. I'm going to give Texas an A. Texas barbecue is the name. You think barbecue is great in Missouri and Tennessee? You can't get barbecue better than in Texas. The big brisket, the big ribs, oh god, the sausage, and words can't describe how much I love Texas barbecue. And I've had it. Not in Texas, but I've had Texas-style barbecue at my local barbecue place. They have Texas-style barbecue there, and it's some of the best stuff you could ever eat. It's delicious. But not just that, they have a great economy, along with California. They have a great economy. A lot of their cities are really cool. San Antonio, in particular, is probably my favorite. They have both the Alamo and the Riverwalk, which is really cool. My only problem with Texas is that I heard the drivers are freaking terrible. And that is kind of scary, honestly, but the drivers aren't really that great along the East Coast. So, well, maybe compared to other states, they're not bad anyways. I heard Texas drivers are not especially great, and they're kind of terrible. But, hey, as I've said a trillion times in this video, it's only from what I've heard of, but it is from a lot of sources. So, Texas is a great state, but their main problem, in my opinion, and why they can't go get an S is because their drivers are kind of insane. Utah. Oh, I love Utah. That heart really fits the state. Utah is up there with Colorado, Idaho, and Montana in that region of just being awesome. But, you know what? It also has, like, different landscapes compared to those states. Colorado has it a little bit, but you get the arches of Utah, and just, you get like arches and a lot of red rock areas in Utah, but you can also get some very high snowy mountains here. It's awesome, and it's a great state to live with a very low crime rate and just great cities, especially Salt Lake City, and I kind of want to try Kronberger's pastrami burger. As you can see, I'm a foodie. The point is, Utah is an awesome state. Vermont, you know what? I put the rest of the upper New England states up here. Vermont is getting an S. Pretty much the same things I said about Maine and New Hampshire. It's got beautiful wildlife, very low crime rate. It's got stunning views, and it's just a great place to go, especially if you like winter sports and stuff like that. If you want to elaborate my opinion on Vermont, go to New Hampshire and Maine. Alright, we have one more state before we get to the last letter, and that's Virginia. Virginia is an awesome state. I love it. I don't know if I'd quite give it an A because it is kind of in the Washington, D.C. area, towards the top, but the rest of the state is awesome. It's got a very low crime rate, and this is like the southern state I've been to the most. It's also the closest southern state to me. And I know some people in the South might not even consider Virginia a southern state, but if I've been in the pretty rural areas of Virginia, and it does feel pretty damn southern. I think I was in the southern half of the state, actually. It does feel pretty southern. Maybe not like South Carolina or Georgia southern, but you get the feeling that you're in a different region of the country compared to where I was. The landscape was kind of different, and yeah, it's just an awesome state. I had the barbecue down there, and you're not gonna believe me. I like the barbecue where I live a little more. I don't know. This just might have been one of those rare places that wasn't all that great. Or maybe I was too north to have it that great, and I had to just go down to North Carolina, which is the state under it. But I can't give it as much as North Carolina or South Carolina as my favorite southern state because while I like Virginia Beach, I think the beaches in North Carolina and South Carolina are just better, and the Washington, D.C. area, while Alexandria, which I stayed in for a whole week, is beautiful, it's in the same area of Washington, D.C., and that's not the most keen thing in my opinion. Alright, the W's. We're on the last 4 states on this ranking. We got Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming left. Let's start with Washington State. I really like Washington State. It's beautiful. Sort of like I did with Maine and New Hampshire compared to Vermont. You can compare Washington very similarly to Oregon. It's beautiful, very wooded and green. It's got very high mountains with Mount Rainier. I might have said that wrong, but excuse my wording of that. Seattle's a very great city, yet I gotta say it is an A and not an S because it is a pretty expensive state. But sort of like Hawaii, you gotta pay a lot to live in a great state. Alright, West Virginia. I'm not gonna sing because my singing voice is terrible. But West Virginia, it gets a little, sort of like New Jersey, it gets a little too much crap. Again, I'm gonna say it, please don't take this the wrong way, but according to a lot of statistics, this is kind of true. West Virginia is one of the poorest states in the country, especially in like the southern end of the state. It's just, it makes me sad. I feel terrible for the people that live around here, and I wish they could have a better life. It's really sad. It reminds me of like Africa or India or something like that. It really reminds me of like, I believe the geography king Kyle said that kind of reminds him of a third world country, and I can see where he's coming from. Just going on Google Maps and looking at the areas and looking at just pictures, it's just it's sad, man. But you know what's not sad? The beauty. This has got to be up there with like North Carolina and Pennsylvania as the most beautiful states east of the Mississippi. West Virginia is undeniably gorgeous. John Denver sang a whole song about it, so you can't go wrong with West Virginia, except for if you live in extreme poverty. It's really sad. I'm sure there's some areas of West Virginia that are very nice, but it has a major problem, and it's really sad. But it also has some extreme positives with its beauty, and I think it has a pretty low crime rate, which is a little bit surprising. But honestly, I think maybe I would go over and visit West Virginia once, maybe. It's a beautiful state with some problems. 2 states left, Wisconsin and Wyoming. Next we got Wisconsin, state known for cheese. Give it very similar to Minnesota. It's a great state. It's got pretty low crime rate. The only really bad city in the state, and I don't even think the entire city like this, is Milwaukee. Most of the state has very safe cities. It's not the most beautiful state in the country, but it's a great state to raise a family in. It's the home of Culver's. Again, I'm a huge foodie, so I love to try Culver's one day. And yeah, I don't have too much to say about Wisconsin except it gives me a very good impression. Alright, the last state and the state I probably talk about the absolute most, Wyoming. Come on, where else did you expect Wyoming was gonna go? Wyoming is probably my favorite state, if not for just Yellowstone alone. You're not going to get any views in this country like the Grand Tetons. Maybe some of the views are higher and stuff like that, but the Grand Tetons are just so unique and beautiful that it's just astounding. Not only that, it's also a very safe state and a state that's very biologically diverse, you could say. It's got like probably the most diverse wildlife outside of Alaska. They got grizzly bears, they got pronghorns, they got moose, they got black bears, they got elk. Just so many animals live there. They got great towns such as Jackson and Cheyenne. They have the rodeo, which I don't think I'd be especially interested in, but some people would be interested in that. If I was to live anywhere in this entire country, I would live in the Jackson, Yellowstone area. Out of anywhere in this entire country, that is the area I would live in if I had the choice. I would move right away to the Jackson, Yellowstone area of Wyoming. Now, I heard people in states like Idaho and Wyoming don't really want people to move around them because it would change their state. Listen, it's not a guarantee that I am going to move there, first of all. But if I do, I'm not going to try to change your state. I just want to see what the lifestyle is like. It's beautiful from what it seems, and I would just love to live there not only, but even if I just visit there, it's a state I really want to go to. Oh boy, okay, this video is probably going to get me in trouble, but it's worth a shot. I'm going to see how the reception of this video does. I hope it gets positive reception. I really love geography and I really wanted to do a video related to it. And what else by just ranking states by tier lists. So please, I'm going to say this for the last time. Don't take offense to this video. I'm not trying to criticize your states, especially because I don't know a lot about a lot of them because I've never been there, but I've been learning a lot over the years, doing a lot of research, watching a lot of videos, reading a lot of stuff online, and these are just the impressions of the states I get, and I just want to give you my opinion. So I hope you guys like this video. I'm going to try to do my next geography related video, probably is going to be GeoGuessr, and yeah, I hope you like this, guys. Gaming Do here. See you later. Bye.